This here is a valve trombone. It has 3 piston valves and is built with a similar configuration, this valve section here, to a B-flat trumpet. The valves function the same way. The first valve drops the pitch by a full tone, second by a half tone, the third by a tone and a half, the same as 1 and 2. However, it's built in the shape of a trombone, which makes it a big nuisance to hold. Not to mention this instrument doesn't stay together well because of this broken solder joint and the bell. Even if the screw is fully fastened, the bell just kind of moves freely. So it's a very obnoxious instrument to hold, but that's not necessarily the fault of the instrument, just the previous owner, I suppose. This is actually my friend's instrument. My tuba playing friend bought this at a pawn shop for a pretty cheap price, and I think that's all it's really worth, if I'm being perfectly honest. I've been reduced, because of its state, to putting duct tape on the tuning slide. When he first showed it to me, it all stayed together because you couldn't actually get the tuning slide out. Once I finally did and I cleaned it up a little, it would just slide in and out freely, this lead pipe here, since it's not fastened to the rest of the trombone. So I was reduced to putting duct tape on those little bits there. This tuning slide is configured similarly to a trumpet. Another feature that is similar to a trumpet, which is, I guess, the sort of what inspired the valve trombone in a way. There's also another tuning slide here, and this knob on the counterweight is actually a pretty genius feature because it allows you to extend the tuning slide when you're reaching behind you. If you've got the trombone in one hand, you can just go like this and tune from behind. It's quite a nice little feature, actually. However, what's not a nice feature is the fact that this spit valve is designed the way it would be on a trumpet, and that's a problem because this slide section is very, very long, longer than on a regular tenor trombone because it's narrower than it should be, which makes reaching the spit valve, this instrument accumulates spit very easily, but it makes reaching the spit valve and emptying out the spit incredibly hard. I physically cannot reach that far. I get that I'm short, I get that I have short arms, but you couldn't maybe modify it a little so that people could actually reach that far. I don't suppose many people could, so that's something that the makers of this trombone could consider in the future. There's not much to say about this instrument. It's quite unremarkable. The valves are adequate for someone who's not playing bebop solos, but that is really the only purpose of the valve trombone. It's widely regarded as an excuse for not learning the slide when trumpet players choose to play trombone in a jazz band, and I can't say they're necessarily wrong. There's not a lot of places where this can be used. It has its applications, don't get me wrong, if there is a fast passage and you want to emulate the trombone sound, because a euphonium, a baritone even, they can come close, but they can't quite get the same direct sound that a cylindrical instrument such as a trombone can. So that's sort of the only real use that the valve trombone has. So I've rambled on at some length about what this instrument does. I guess now it's time to actually play it. Before I play it, might I point out that the notes don't lock in on this instrument. I always thought it was entirely the fault of me as a player because I never really played the slide trombone I own and this thing back to back, so I always thought it was just, oh, I'm having a bad day today. That's not really the case. I just don't think the notes lock in on this instrument. It sounds like there's an air leak. Everything except the middle register is really bad. I suppose I'll give a little demonstration. Ugh. Especially that pedal C sounds like there's a whole bunch of air rushing through the horn. It doesn't really sound like a note. It doesn't feel like a note. I have to puff my cheeks way out in the low register. So evidently, the low register isn't suited very well for someone like me. How about the high register? The middle to high register is tolerable. However, when you try and go any higher than that, it just starts sounding bad. And that's about where my range caps off on this thing, which is far lower than on a decent slide trombone, like the one I have over there. So, here's a little tune. It's a bit of a standard tune on this channel. The first variation of the Arbon's Carnival of Venice. This isn't going to sound great, but I'll give it my best shot. I'd continue, but this is an exhausting instrument to play. It never occurred to me until I actually started playing the slide trombone and the valve trombone side by side, but this is so much more work than it needs to be. I have to, like I have a bad habit of doing on trumpet, less so on a nice trombone, but on a trombone like this, I'm forced to compensate in my body when I shift registers. So it's not a very pleasant instrument to play. I'll round this video off just to show you guys what the valves can do and what they can't do with another excerpt out of Carnival of Venice. Enjoy. Oh boy, you can see that unless you're in need of a valve trombone and desperately, there isn't much of a reason to purchase one. Just settle for something like a cheap baritone. It'll serve you far better than this will. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed.